I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Guys, welcome back to Oops the Podcast. This feels very odd, but here we are. Excited about the future. Lynch and Gallerati, the two men left standing. We hope that the other two, Casso and Ellis, are off living their best lives. I suspect they are. I know Francis probably has big things coming up. Looking forward to it for him and Chris as well. It's funny. Like, remember in Entourage, Ryan, when, if you really think about the show Entourage, that was a show about E. Mm-hmm. E is the character who grew the most. He changed and morphed into whatever he became. And to me, Chris is that for us.
Yeah.
Oops, the Podcast was secretly about Chris the whole time.
He's really evolved.
He really has evolved. Chris started off, first of all, Ryan and I are drinking some Negronis to ring in the new Oops. By the way, happy 4th of July, everybody. Ryan, let's cheers real quick here off the mic. Hope you guys could hear that clinking and clanking. Having some Negronskis. But happy Independence Day. Happy 4th of July. I think it's fitting that this is our Independence Day as well. We are now a solo operation again, an independent operation. It feels really good. Being at Barstool was special and great, and it was amazing to have an ecosystem of people who knew how to do all these things that are really hard to do. You know what I mean? You had a question about YouTube, there's someone you could call. You had a question about TikTok, there's somebody you could call. There's somebody who knew everything. That was really cool. I will say though, I did feel just a lot more pressure there. You know what I mean? I always felt like no matter how good we were doing, it wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? So it sort of feels nice to have that weight off my shoulders. Although ultimately that weight is much more on my shoulders than it has ever been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because
it's important, that the podcast does well for our livelihood. And, I think it's going to do great, bro. Thank you guys for all the nice messages during everything that's been going down. It's certainly been a hard time, but it's been all right. Like it's been solid getting in here and figuring it out. Making it happen and getting everything set up. So this is the plant boy behind me, the literal plant boy. Shout out to Jackie, who's a listener who helped me with some plant boy techniques to keep him healthy and fed. You'll notice the plant boy has one leaf that sticks vertical. It's almost as if he's a young child in a Disney movie that they're like not allowed to make that Disney movie anymore because it's a little offensive, like a Pocahontas style. He has the feather sticking up, the alfalfa sprout. He looks good. He looks healthy. And I've been taking her advice. Apparently for the plant boy, you're supposed to let him dry him out and then drown him. One time I drowned him too much and he actually spilled out from the bottom and water got on the floor. I put a towel down. And I've kept it there because I'm afraid that perhaps it will happen again. But it's all right. We're drowning him out. We're doing it. And everything's good here, man. Ryan, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm excited about this. It's it all happened so fast, so we didn't really get a chance to, sit around and sulk and get upset about it. We just kind of just jumped right into what are we doing? Are we doing this? And so I'm glad that we're just continuing, not ending the streak of episodes as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Just new chapter.
New chapter. It's all good.
And thanks again. I got some messages too. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah, it's been good, man. And, listen, during this whole process, Ryan and I have not said one negative word about anybody or anything. That is like for real. Mm-hmm. It's a positive group here with Ryan and I and the plant boy. And whoever else is involved. But, we get it. It's all good. And we're moving on to the future, and that's all we're going to do. But it's funny, like around the time of the pod, when the last pods came out, people mentioned how, I seemed down and whatever. And it was true. I was, And it's funny, like this is the first time, and maybe ever, or definitely a long time where I had felt depressed for a sustainable period of time. Like for a consistent period of time, I felt like shit and I was sad and, at first people were like really comforting and accommodating and like, I'm here, but it's amazing how quickly people are like, all right, dude, you're just annoying now. You know what I mean? Like and I wonder if that's like being a man. I know people talk about that there's some stigma about like being a man and how like you're not allowed to be weak or whatever. You know what I mean? Not that I'm some tough seeming guy. You know, I'm not like a fucking tough guy by any stretch of the imagination. But I found that was interesting. I was like, oh wow, like I actually feel like I'm not allowed to be depressed because somehow that makes me like look weak or something, and like people aren't gonna like me or something. I started to feel that. I don't know if like, I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining it, but it's possible that I'm not. You know, it's possible that it's just like a full on real thing. I don't really fucking know. Right?
What did it feel like kind of falling into that?
I don't know, dude. It was weird. Like, and I sort of said this before too. It was like, you're excited to go to bed. You don't want to wake up. That's an interesting thing, a feeling that I'm not like used to. And, you know, it was just like constant. There's been so many steps that we've had to go through to make sure that we set this up properly and that it's working right and that the pod's ready to keep moving into the future, along with all the emotional stuff. And I think that's what was most interesting. Like when I was in Montenegro, I get this call, how lucky am I get to be there. And then I get this fucking insane phone call that the pod is ending, right? Oh, what are we going to do? Or the pod's changing, right? Ultimately. But at first it's just like the pod's ending. Didn't know any details, didn't know anything. As I hear about it, Francis was kind enough and reasonable enough to be like, you can just have the podcast. And, you know, have that in writing, everything, which he didn't have to do that. Like if he wanted to be a dick, he could have easily like made it so that was difficult. So I appreciate that. And obviously like we're boys, like he would never not do that. You know what I mean? I would obviously do the same for him. But it was interesting. And then, so at first it's like panic mode. At first you're like, you accept it and you're like, okay, this is fine. It's going to be okay. Silver lining. This will be different. That'll be different. I'll have more flexibility, blah, blah, blah. Like smaller operation, all this stuff. Right. And then you kind of go back and forth with that. And then that following week I was on the road and I was in like, let's do it mode. Like I'm emailing, I'm calling, I'm doing whatever. And then at some point I realized I'm like, oh, like I'm not going to get to do my podcast with my boy anymore. You know what I mean? That's sad. Like that sucks. Like that's a completely different shitty feeling about it. Not, you know what I mean? Cause like initially it's like, oh no, I'm worried about the future of my finances. Right. You get that to a place where you're like, okay, I'll be able to survive. And then it's like, okay, now I have the luxury of being able to just feel sad about this, you know? So it's like, you just graduate to a new place of feeling like shit. Which I definitely, you know, I went through and experienced and it was fine. And now I feel pretty good and pretty positive. And Ryan and I have had a lot of solid pep talks the last couple of days, some real ass talks. And it's funny because last night I was having some Negronskis, was enjoying some of my video work that's coming out in the future. And I came in the bedroom and I woke Hillary up, Hill Dog, and I mentioned to her that we had like pep talks. You know what I mean? I was like, Ryan, I had some good pep talks. And then this morning, and I was like going to tell her about it and she was like half asleep, whatever. And this morning she was like, can you tell me what you talked about? And I was like, honestly, no, like I'm too shy now. It was too like personal and sweet. But like, you know, whatever. It's not like we said anything crazy, but you know.
Yeah. And you're a fun texter too.
I text a lot.
You text, well, I wouldn't say, yeah, but you're very positive in your text messages and your responses.
Good, dude.
You say sweet and cool instead of just thumbs upping. And that peps me up.
I'm an affirmative texter.
Yes.
I think that is the thing. I just feel bad. Like I know how bad I feel when I text someone and they don't like give me much. It like really stresses me out. So I don't know. So I'm glad that, you know what I mean? Like you just get like nothing and you're like, oh God, like, do they hate me? That's why I hate please. You know, I've said that on the pod before, but like, please do this, please do that. I don't like that. So anyway, but bro, whatever. Enough of this fucking moping bullshit. This is America, baby. July 4th. I say this all the time. As I get older, I become more and more patriotic. You know, I just picture like a flag waving behind me. Like, what's that effect called? An opaque flag where you can still see, you know, like this is it, baby. America. It's a good place. Seriously, it's a great country. We have very solid institutions here in this country. I'm very proud to be American. I'm very proud to live here. And I love it here. And listen, it's not perfect. I know that there are things with America that are not perfect. But I just know there's nowhere that I would rather live. And I hope you guys feel that way too, dude. I know that when I have a house someday, there will be an American flag on my lawn. And I hope I have it in like a bougie ass, like liberal neighborhood to like give the flag back its luster. It's a good flag, dude. You know what I mean? And it's a modern flag too. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on that flag. A lot of flags had to exist previously for us to be like, you know what if we did this with our flag? You know what I mean? Instead of having like a very simple pattern, we got a lot going on, which is nice because we have a lot going on here.
Well said.
Lots of different ecosystems, lots of different landscapes. You got it all here in America. You know, everything you could ever want. Plains, deserts, mountains, tropical regions, all sorts of different kinds of animals, all different kinds of people. And bro, most of us here, and this is a complicated subject perhaps, but we all came from other places, a lot of us. You know what I mean? So it's just a nice place that doesn't have any weird, like, I don't know, deep rooted homogenous thing. It's like a bunch of different fucking people here, right? What a nice thing that is. And if you want to come here and grind, now granted, you might have to fucking work so much that you hate your life, but if you're willing to do that, and that's not that bad, and you're motivated by working hard and getting some out of it, there's no better place to be. America, right? So happy 4th of July. Hope you're enjoying the spoils that our forefathers laid out for us so that we can enjoy ourselves and have a happy time.
America, you saw president today on your
Oh
way
yeah,
back home?
I did. The president. So this annoys me, dude. Like the president can just shut down the entire street to drive by. I get why he has to do that. There's plenty of people plotting his demise as we speak, and they need to throw him off the scent at all times. There's a convoy. There's 97 cars, 57 motorcycles, 1,000 police officers who don't know anything. There's a guy going, no, it's Joe Biden, Joe Biden. You know what I did? Actually, I walked by one of the cops and I wanted to just purposely do like a stereotypical thing you'd say to a cop in this situation. Very dad joke of me, but I said it silly in a silly way. I mean, what is it? The Pope? And he's like, oh no, I don't think so. He like answered me honestly, I'm like, dude, are you serious? But I stood there for like 20 minutes, dude, and nothing happened. Like I'm just sitting there waiting for the president to drive by. Fine. I'm trying to get here to record with you. The president's about to drive by and I'm just like, fuck, dude, the president driving one block costs more money than I make in a year. That's crazy. I understand that that's required to keep him safe or whatever. Like keeping our leader safe is important, right? I guess. Obviously, keeping our leader safe is important, but you know what I mean by that. Like that's the purpose of that, right? Maybe there's no better way to do that. That is the technique, right? So like, I get why they have to do it, but like it's sad that we live in a world like that, dude, where the president could be killed at any moment. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I don't know. It's stressful. We're stressful people, you know, people on this earth, dude. I don't mean for this to get too philosophical. This is not what this podcast is going to be. Don't worry. But anyway, I don't know, dude. So Ryan, I've been noticing you've been looking pretty jacked, dude. You've been ripping it.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In moments like these, do you feel like your output physically becomes better? Is that like a thing for you? Like if you feel stressed out, do you therefore work out more?
Yeah, so I think when we got the news, I just went on a long run, and I
think I saw that.
Yeah, because we had our watches.
Ryan and I have our watches synced, which was Ryan's idea. He thinks it's hilarious. It is hilarious.
It's cute, little 0.27 mile walk.
Yeah,
it's a good workout.
Anytime I see Ryan has worked out, it shows up on my watch. I'm constantly wearing my watch, so Ryan's constantly getting notifications because I count everything as exercise because I don't want to exercise. So if I walk 10 feet, that pops up on Ryan's watch. That's exercise.
Yeah, I worked out a lot. I think the first week after we found out, yeah, I just have this like fire to get jacked because of this life-changing event.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
I think so. There's something good about it. I do also think though there's like a negative impulse there, and I have it too, where I'm like, if things are going poorly for me, like I'm way more likely to eat healthy and exercise more because I feel like I'm like not good enough. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh God, I'm a loser. Like, look at you, dude. Like your future's bleak and you're fucking fat ass, dude. Look at you. You're a fucking loser. No wonder you don't have your shit together. You can't even be in shape. There's something about being in shape or like pursuing being in shape that makes one feel in control, which I understand the like allure there. If one is going through a difficult time, you know what I mean?
You can control that.
You can control that. But dude, in the gym, bro, like I don't know if it's just the specific gym that I go to, but I've been noticing a lot of things that are really pissing me off. And there's like 3 or 4. And I don't know if it's because I just really don't want to be in the gym, so I'm more irritable. And I know that I have gym pet peeves in general. Like if I'm on a treadmill and there's 17 open treadmills, why would you get on the treadmill directly next to me? You know what I mean? That's one. But here's a few other ones. Smelling like absolute shit, dude. Why do you smell so bad? Right? That pisses me off. Like shower, dude. Like I get that it's like, oh, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to sweat anyway. Why shower? But if you smell fucking disgusting, don't do that to everybody. Like this guy smelled so bad, dude. And then I saw him in the locker room and I saw him taking his clothes off and I immediately shut down nose breathing. I was like, I'm only breathing through my mouth for the rest of this day. Not this day, but while I'm in the locker room because I'm like, I can't bear. And this guy's all naked, throwing his shit all over the ground. Is that a thing in every gym? Is it because it's like an alpha male community? You're like getting jacked, like so you can kill anybody. You have a problem with me? I'll kill you. Maybe that promotes this behavior, but people like to make shared space their own personal space. I don't understand that.
Do you think these people know that they smell?
There's a chance they don't. But when you smell that bad, dude, I will check myself to see if I smell all the time. If I sort of, kind of, even the slightest bit smell, I immediately do something about it.
It's a big insecurity of mine.
Oh,
like
big
if
time.
I have a little bit of BO, the thought of that is the most unattractive thing in the world.
Dude.
If I get caught with that, I will run to a Walgreens or a CVS and get a little deodorant stick immediately.
Same.
So it makes sense that it would be preposterous for somebody to be out in public smelling like that.
Dude, 100%. And I have bought a lot of mini deodorants too. I'm very guilty of doing that, unfortunately. And actually, dude, we've partnered with a sustainable marketplace in some of our future episodes that sell a lot of cool sustainable products, which I'm very interested in, especially as I've been watching all this nature shit about the decline of the globe. It's a nice thing. But dude, I feel you. I'm very insecure about that. And even like having bad breath freaks me out. Like to the point where if I'm like in bed with Hillary and we're spooning, she may be upset that I'm disclosing that we occasionally will spoon. I will pick my mouth and move the opening only to the bottom right so that the air coming out of my mouth doesn't go in her direction because I don't want her to smell me having bad breath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you use that technique.
No, that's a fine technique.
It's a good.
I don't understand why in movies everyone wakes up in the morning and they're all lovey-dovey and talking to each other with that hot breath.
I know.
It's bad breath no matter who you are in the morning.
I know. It's really crazy.
It's not realistic.
Yeah, agreed, Ryan. Thank you for, it's true, dude. It's not realistic. But anyway, I'm very, very afraid of smelling like shit. So it's a thing that I think about all the time. So fair point. Maybe the guy doesn't know he smells like shit. But let's graduate to things where there's no excuse. Number 1, doing insane, really loud shit, bro, in the gym as your exercise. Taking up space and doing insane, really loud shit. There was a guy throwing a ball against the wall really hard. He wasn't even in that good of shape. And he's just smashing this like heavy ball against the wall over and over and over and over again. And is there some value to that? It's like, dude, you're literally fat. So why are you doing that? Like, why do you have to do that exercise? If you were in insane shape and you're like, the only way I can move my fitness forward is by changing, this is the only exercise I've never done. So I'm going to throw this ball against the wall as hard as I can. I understand that a bit more, but bro, like you are not in shape at all. There's 75,000 other things you could be doing. Why are you making our experience terrible? Yeah. And that's the same guy who talks loud. That guy talks loud on the phone in the gym. Another thing that pisses me off. There was a guy doing it in the locker room. Talking on the phone in the gym itself is bad, but it's like, okay, at least it's an open enough space. There's a guy on the phone in the locker room and they're trying, oh yeah, bro. Yeah. I'm going out to, how's it going? Like talking about VC funding, of course. Oh yeah, we got like, how's your second round of funding going? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, this is so unacceptable. But like starting a fight over that seems insane. But did I Karen him? Yes, I told on him
To who? The front?
to the front desk.
What'd you say?
I said, dude, not to be this guy who's like snitching on people, but like there was a guy just straight up on the phone in the locker room, and it sucks. It sucked. And like, I don't know, like I know that like the maintenance guys don't want to say anything because they're afraid that might not go well. And I understand their impulse to feel that way, to be like, you can't talk in the bathroom, and the guy be like, don't you have a fucking thing to clean? You know what I mean? That must be a terrible moment to experience that. So if I were the guy who cleaned the floor, I too would say nothing, but that's the only guy in the locker room, and you can't just let people do whatever they want.
Might need to bring quarrelsome Giulio into the mix.
I know.
The vigilante.
Confrontational Giulio might have to come back. I think I have my mojo back now, dude, so perhaps I will. Here's the final thing, and I don't know if this is a contentious topic or not, or something that people think about, but should you be allowed to go in the sauna or steam room fully clothed with sneakers on?
No.
Dude, I see that. I've been seeing that all the time.
No.
I saw that the same day as talk on the phone in the locker room guy. There's a sign that tells you you're not allowed to like do any naughty shit in there, but there should be also a sign that says no sneakers in the fucking thing. So that bothered me. So I was thinking like, what would be the solution to that? I think you could make a sign that said flip-flops and sandals only, right? Because there's nobody like working out in the gym in flip-flops or sandals. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's like too specific and people will work around that rule. So do you have to say open-toed shoes only? That's kind of misleading. It sounds like you can only wear high heels, which I would argue is a bad idea. You're going in the steam room with all these like charged up guys in high heels. You might be asking for trouble. So I don't know, but it's not unreasonable, right? No. We should, guys, as the gym community, we should be striving and committed to making sure people don't go into the steam room and sauna fully clothed. And I suspect that like the shittier the gym, the more likely it is for that to happen. Because I don't know, like sometimes I'll go by a shitty gym and I'll see like the most jacked guy I've ever seen coming out of it. And it's a gym that's like $10 a month. And I know, and he has like a gallon of water, you know, like, and you can tell that guy spends all of his money on food. He has to spend all of his money on food to be that jacked. Yes. And to me, that's not, you don't have any balance if you're living like that. You need balance. Like I get that like weighing your food can be a useful way if you want to like be in really good shape too. But I know that like I'm constantly talking about working out, but then also talking about how I don't give a shit that I'm a fat ass. But like, I think there's a happy medium, dude. I just want to look good in clothes. If I looked good in clothes, I'd be happy. I don't want to get to weighing my food territory. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I would argue that if you are going to the $10 a month gym because you spend all your money on food and you have the gallon of water, you should pipe down a bit and get some more balance in your life. And also, I feel like that is the place where the guys are more likely to go in the steam room and sauna fully clothed with sneakers on. Because they know some trick about, you know, you get your heart rate up to this amount and you get the sweat going, like you've dehydrated yourself. Once you've dehydrated your glycogen store, like how many times have you fucking, and it's sad because I've had to read that shit to know that. So clearly I've like looked it up too, but I still land on the fact that it's stupid. Ryan, you look great. Do you have like any secrets like or techniques that you've used?
No, I think I just have a really fast metabolism. No secrets.
So you've always been wiry.
Yes, wiry. When I was in college, I think I was up to 20 pounds heavier than I am right now with muscle, which was a pretty
That's
awesome,
crazy.
It was an awesome time feeling that big, but you have to be the guy that walks into the gym with the gallon jug and spend all your money on chicken breast and make sure you eat like 4 a day. Yeah. Because that's what I had to do to be like that. But there's no life in that.
Agreed.
So
dude.
I just try to eat. I try to eat as much as I can because moving to New York City, you're just walking so much.
Right.
You burn so many calories.
That's true.
With that. So I'm just trying to eat as much protein as possible, but I'm not too much prioritizing how much I'm eating, what I'm eating, just enough.
Nice. Yeah. It's funny. I worry about moving from New York because of what happened to me during the pandemic when I wasn't just walking around. The thing that was upsetting about the pandemic is I was working out all day long. That's all I was doing. I was walking 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever, like in the woods, like regularly, and working out and like eating a bunch of protein and whatever. And I just got like fat and like bulky, but like fat. And like, I don't understand how that happened. I don't know if like the stress of the time or what it was, but like somehow like not having I also walked around New York City a bunch thing. I think affected me, even though I was like trail walking and whatever. It's a weird time. So here's my question, dude. I get this, and Francis has this too, where he's like, when he's huge, he's so happy. And sort of when he's not huge, it means he's like, in his mind, sort of like wasting away. He's becoming this skinny guy. And maybe it's because I was hanging around New York City during the era where like all these skinny fucking like Euro dudes were getting all the chicks, you know? So like, to me, that image seemed desirable. So, cause to me, like being super muscular, like is not the, like what I want to look like. Now I understand this. That is like a bigger guy talking. The amount of times I've heard people be like, I want to work out, but then they're like, but I don't want to just get like super muscular. That's a really annoying statement because you're not in shape at all, dude. Why are you even, what makes you think you could even get super jacked? So I'm not saying it like that. And I wonder maybe if my natural phase was skinny, my natural resting weight was skinny, I would feel more that way. Maybe we're all wired to want to look better or some shit. You know what I mean? Does it ever end?
My goal is really just to not look like a little boy.
Right.
Because if I'm down, if my weight's down, I feel like a child. I feel like I look like a child.
Interesting.
I don't want to look like that.
Interesting.
So that's my motivation to at least consume more.
And but to me, it's like, all right, you'll look great in pictures being skinny. You look so chiseled. But I guess if you're getting jacked, you would still look chiseled, but you would also be jacked, right? Is that the idea? Mm-hmm. When does the neck thing begin to happen?
What?
Do you have to work out your neck to get the big neck, or does that just happen naturally as you're getting huge?
Have you seen people using the machines where they like tilt their head with like a weight?
Yes, I have.
So I think that's like the only isolated workout you can do for your neck.
The guy doing that is also going like you know, if you're wearing a belt or gloves or whatever, there's a chance you're overdoing it, I would argue too. Although I have seen a lot of like women in the gym, honestly, who have like really hacked into something. They look amazing and they're like older and they have weightlifting gloves on. That is a look that I've seen. So I don't know. Listen, this is not a podcast where we talk about things as fact. We simply, we talk about things theoretically. You know what I mean? So dude, this is funny. I've realized this. So guys, in the upcoming episodes, we're going to have a lot of your sort of favorite Oops characters on the show. Thank you for, riding with us during this time. You're going to hear a lot about all the shit we have to talk about. Look forward to getting Ryan more involved in the conversations. We're going to have a lot of really cool guests, both sort of like noteworthy comedians, as well as like some of your favorite characters from the show. Spoiler alert. I know you guys have already probably figured this out by listening or by following our Instagram. But Hill Dog will be a guest on the show next episode. So we're really looking forward to that. You guys sent a bunch of amazing questions. We're going to rip through those. That's going to be fun. When I told my dad about what had happened, dude, he goes, well, looks like it's time for me to come on the podcast. I'm like, dude, you're a cocky son of a gun, dude. I'm like, don't forget that the reason why you have this character now is because of me, dude. You are my Frankenstein. I've created a monster that I can no longer control.
It's too funny, man.
Dude, without me, Dad, without my spin on you, you're just a pain in the ass, dude. No, I'm just joking. We will get Big G on here. He is right. He is an entertaining guy. God, he's a funny guy, dude. What a character. And yeah, man, look forward to having him back. P.S. I'm going to be at the Vulcan Gas Company, Austin, Texas, July 14th, 2 shows. Very excited about that. Very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. I think the turnout's going to be great too. So if there's any tickets left, please get them and come to the show. It'll be a really fun sort of like triumphant moment for all of us and any Oops listeners and supporters who are there. I really appreciate your support. So dude, it's funny. As we talk about all this like wellness stuff, we actually got an email about the spa, which I would like to tackle with you because I think there's a lot of fun stuff there. And this person is clearly a spa aficionado. So I think it's worth us going into. So let me preface this with saying, Ryan and I are taking a trip to the QC Terme Spa on Governor's Island, which I have proclaimed in the past is one of the finest spas that I have ever been to. I would say it's the second sickest spa I've ever been to.
Where's the
number one is the Well in Norway. It's like 30 minutes outside of Oslo. You can take a train there. Ubers are like straight up not affordable in Norway. So if you haven't rented a car, everything is not affordable in Norway. P.S. It's very expensive to visit. I found. 30 minutes outside of Oslo. It is unfucking believable. It's like 3 levels of like completely different self-contained spa experiences. The top floor is like a complete Japanese, freestanding Japanese spa with like 7 different saunas, whatever, a bunch of activities, outdoor area, whatever. Then there's like a whole wet area. And then there's just like 50 unbelievable saunas and steam rooms that are all completely different and like a ton of amazing attention to detail. It is a home run, incredible. QC Terme Spa on Governor's Island. And I know that there's a bunch of them in Italy too, which are apparently sick. But dude, this place, isn't even an ad, by the way. This is me just keeping it real. It has, so one of the things that I find that luxury spas lack is general size of the spa. So you might be a fancy spa, but because of that, it's very treatment centric. You go, you get a massage, you go, you get a facial, whatever the fuck, they wrap you in a leaf, whatever they're doing to you. You know what I mean? You go to get treatments. And then there's one sauna, one steam room. They're really nice. They're really clean. There's not a lot of people there. All great. But I love a variety of experience. I love seeing how it's curated, feeling the different facilities and the little nicks and knacks and like, but if there's buttons in the shower, like I love if there's like 50 things for me to do. To me, that's very fun. So QC Terme has that. It has the volume. There's like 15 saunas, a bunch of wet area, outdoor pool, like a self-guided skincare routine, like all this amazing shit. And it smells good. Usually that's where they lose you. When it starts to scale up, you lose the good smell. There's still a good experience there, but you lose the good smell. And to have square footage and the good smell, that is when you're in tip-top area, in my opinion. So having said all that, I'm going to go into this email and leave and fill in any of the cracks that we've left out. So here we go. It's called Spa Life Questions. What is the best way to go to a spa? Alone, with friends, or with your significant other? I wanted to go to We Spa, Korean spa in LA that has gender-specific nude areas. We Spa is how I discovered, by the way, this is Giulio talking, not the email. It's how I discovered spa life, is We Spa. It's the first time I went with my buddy Sandy. There was the all nude area, which was a little jarring, but they do have little, for men only. They give you little towels that you can just sort of politely hold in front of your genitalia. And then everybody sort of agrees not to look at each other. And it's fine. It's no weird. Of course, there's the guy on the lounge chair with his fucking giant, clock fucking dong hanging, shaking in the wind. They're weird. Do weird things happen there? Sure. There are weird, creepy dudes. And there's also naked children in the men's only area. Must be a cultural thing, whatever, but doesn't seem appropriate. I may have told this story many pods ago, but once I was sitting in the cold plunge, because it's, good for the body. I like to sit in there for 8 to 10 minutes. A little boy walked over naked and just started peeing in the cold plunge with his hands on his hips. And I'm looking around like, is anybody else seeing this kid pissing in the cold plunge? Nobody seemed to give a shit. And I have said this before too, but that's another funny thing is like, dude, you're entering like a hot tub and like you're asking kids to move out of the way as you're like naked and their face is right in front of your like manly area. And that's not appropriate. Okay. But hey, get out of the way, kid. So anyway, We Spa, odd place, but it's very good. So anyway, she goes, with my best friend, I went to We Spa, but she thought that it would be weird to be naked together. Fair enough. Whatever. This made me think, am I the weird one for not caring about being naked? Then I went to the Standard Spa in Miami with my husband, which has a co-ed hammam, but there were topless European girls there. And I was like, I don't know if I love this either. There's also a Russian spa in San Francisco that's co-ed, and for whatever reason, all the dudes were naked and none of the girls were. Weird vibes. Should I just only go to the spa alone and stick to the women-only ones to avoid any weird nakedness? Or is this just a me problem and picking weird spa companions? Appreciate your guidance. I can really help here. So, okay, We Spa thing. I think the spa is better with a companion. And I'll tell you why. A couple of reasons. First of all, it's important to like push your limits in some of these rooms. You want to get past, and I've never actually heard him talk about this, but I've heard that there's some Joe Rogan episodes where they talk about sort of the benefits of being in the steam of the sauna for like over 20 minutes. Like from 20 to 25 minutes is when your like cells start doing whatever. I don't know. None of that may be medically proven, but I'm into it, whatever. So sometimes it can be hard to push yourself to go that long. Having a companion helps because they will push you to stay longer if they have a longer sort of like threshold than you. And plus by talking to people, it makes you last longer as well. And it just makes it more fun. You're not just like sitting there with your own thoughts, occasionally going to check your phone because you're bored or whatever. Like, I think it's nice to be there with a companion. I think it's really fun. So I think that is one way, first of all, to look at it. But now you're like, okay, well, if I go with my boyfriend and there's the topless European chicks, that's weird. Fair. I wouldn't really like being in a nude spa with my girlfriend either. I think it would be like weird to have just a bunch of naked dudes walking around with her there. So I feel you on that. But then, so you just don't go to that one with her. Plenty of spas make you wear clothes. You know what I mean? I think QC, again, not an ad, I swear, would solve your problems, because the Russian spa, by the way, is creepy. Like, for some reason, there's creepy critters hanging out at that spa. It's really intense. I would argue the Russian spa is like kind of gross. I find typically it's too gross for me. It's really intense. Shout out to Nick and KB. I know over at Barstool, I know they love the Russian spa. I will go to the Russian spa, but once I've been to it, I don't like to typically go back because I just like think they're a little gross, to be honest. So avoid the Russian spa. If you're going to go with the boyfriend, I guess go a place where people don't get naked. And for Wii Spa, yeah, find a companion who's down with being naked. But I do think that going with somebody is the move for the spa. Ryan, I'm excited for you to experience spa life with me.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to seeing you experience the spas the way that you do. Pushing things, touching things, reading things.
Dude, it's a really special experience. And I really think you're going to have a good time. I'm going to guide you well too, because I've been there before. So I know specifically where we should start and all that hoopla. Good refreshments.
Perfect.
Good chilling. Good areas to hang out. I also love a spa that's good in the winter, dude. Mm-hmm. Like a winter wonderland where you're out in the hot bath, but it's cold. You put out your little tongue. You get a little snowflake on your tongue.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it's nice too because you're in nature, so you're not worried about the acidity of the snowflakes. Although I don't know if there's any direct relation to anything like that, of like snowflakes being, you know what I mean, like in the city or the snowflakes. Whereas I actually don't know the answer to that. You don't know?
I don't know. I can look that up.
Yeah, that would be potential. I have you wearing many hats now, so you may not have as much time to look things up, but we are, of course, open to you looking things up. Get in there and fucking look it up. So, dude, speaking of Scandinavia, it's funny. So I was connected with a Danish comedian, this guy Ruben, who's very famous in Denmark, apparently, which is very cool. Good for him. It's always funny. Like, I always feel bad for comedians from other countries who are like really famous, and then they like come to America, and somehow like American comedy just somehow like rules all. I don't think anybody's decided that, and they may not be true, but like, to the point being, he's here in New York, and like, it's not, for some reason, not the same as like Dave Chappelle being in Denmark, period. You know what I mean? There's no way to argue against that. But this guy is significantly more famous in Denmark than I am in America. And he was explaining to me what it's like to be famous in Denmark. And there's a specific phenomenon that I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's something where like, if you are like feeling yourself, everybody in Denmark decides that you've gotten too cocky and has to cut you down. This is what he was describing to me. So for example, if he were to do some like big commercial campaign, that would really negatively affect his ticket sales.
That's interesting.
I was like, what? That is crazy. If anybody can speak more on that, I'm like very fascinated by whatever the fuck he was talking about. It's a very interesting thing though. The idea of that. I've heard about it before. And I was like, all right, well, what about like if a big international star comes to Denmark, why does that not apply to them? He goes, I don't know. I don't know why that doesn't apply, but for some reason it doesn't apply. So he's like, you kind of just always have to show that you're humble if you want to keep progressing in your career. I'm like, that's pretty interesting. But this guy's been super helpful, and he's going to help me set up some Denmark dates, which I'm pretty pumped about. Ryan, you got any info for us over here?
Yeah, basically, if you live in an urban area, the snowflakes are less healthy, so don't taste them.
Yeah, interesting. Is there any reason for that?
Soaking up the toxic pollutants.
Yeah,
pollutants.
right. Makes sense.
It's interesting.
That is interesting. Dude, it's funny. My doorman here. So like doormen in my building, when they find out what I do for a job, they just think it's funny to like disrespect my day. I don't think he means it like this, but they're just like, oh, like, what do you do all day? You just walk around. You know what I mean? The guy who's the doorman here is like older, and he's really funny, and he's like a really sweet guy. We have a nice rapport. Like him busting my balls is funny. You know what I mean? Like I have no issue with it. But he'll be like joking around with me, and he'll be like, oh, you only work at night, so you don't know. And I'm like, actually I've been working during the day, like trying to get my stuff going, but he's older. He doesn't hear amazingly, so I have to like be concise and loud. So I'm like, I can't be like, oh, a podcast, some of the ins and outs. I can't like go into too much detail with him, you know? But I was like, I've been working like a dog, and he said something funny. And this guy, I mean, he's clearly the best doorman on earth, which is why he's 85 still doing it. Cause he's got this type of shit in his back pocket. He goes, dogs don't work. And I'm like, that's a good point. And as I'm walking down the street, I hear him go, they don't sweat either. And I'm like, it took me a second to be like, oh, sweating like a dog. Oh yeah. But I'm like, oh, that's a very interesting point, dude.
I met him yesterday when I came over, and I had all the bags. And
he's a sweet guy, right?
So he said, put these down. And I was like, I'll be right back. And when I came back in, he did this with his arms. He's like, oh, you don't do that. So he seems like a fun character.
He is a fun character. He's made some good points, dude. It's really worth listening to older people talk because they really do have good shit to tell you. And it doesn't really matter what they've done with their life. You know what I mean? Experience in life, period, sort of trumps a successful youth in a lot of ways, I think, typically. And if you sit and you're willing to listen, they have a lot of good stuff to say. I know that old people sort of get this reputation as sort of like bogging down your day and like wanting to talk a lot and shit. But like, it's worth listening to. He said a lot of great stuff. He's like, he's 84 and he's the doorman. And he's like, if I don't work, I'm gonna fucking die. He didn't swear. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. And he didn't even say die, but he said something along those lines. And then he made an interesting point too. He's like, what? He's like, they're going to give me a cane and then I'm going to depend on the cane. That's how, and I don't know. I don't think he had any sort of like medical industry conspiracy angle with that. But I do think, but I hear what he's saying. It's like, if you force yourself not to decay and decline, you can prosper and be pretty agile, hopefully later into life, which I'm always afraid of the idea of retiring because of that. This idea that like, I'm done now and I'm just going to sit there, wither away. I'd rather like die working. He worked till he was whatever and died. Yeah. I don't know if it's like been a tough time and therefore like I'm reflecting a lot about shit, but I've been thinking about life on like a macro level recently. Do you ever do that?
Yes.
I experience my life as it is, as it will be, and as it has been. And in this way that feels very short and unimportant, you know what I mean? Minuscule. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about school as a kid. Now, when you go to school as a kid, you fucking hate school. You know what I mean? And even if you like school, it's still like a prison. School's a prison. You go to learn, but it's also set up nicely so that your parents can execute their life without having to keep you alive all day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Which God bless camp, dude. Thank God for my parents. Not thank God for my parents, but like shout out to my parents for being such sweet, compassionate people who didn't just send me to camp all summer. They wanted to be around me. They wanted to spend time with me. They love spending time with me. My kids are going to camp. Is there a permanent camp that they can go to? Can you go to camp at all times for 12 months out of the year for the entirety of your childhood? I'm just wondering. But dude, like, so I get why it's all set up like that, right? To give parents a break, whatever, but you also have to learn shit, right? I was in school at 7:20. That homeroom bell would ring at 7:20 in the fucking morning, dude. I think my homeroom had one of those TVs that was wheeled in too. Strapped, it had a number on the side of it, a big Hitachi tube TV. Haddam Killingworth High School. I'm sitting there. Don't even fucking remember who my homeroom teacher was. I think it was Mr. Pilato at one time. Shout out Mr. Pilato. Nice guy. I want to talk a little more about my relationship with him later. But for now, bro, here I am, 7:20. I'm in school. I struggle to wake up, as I did every single day for my entire life. I struggle to wake up to be at school. And here I am in school. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to get by. I'm looking at the clock. And as every second goes by, I am thinking, how am I going to survive this 40 minutes of class? Mm-hmm. 3 minutes has gone by. It feels like an eternity. I have no fucking idea what this guy's talking about cells or fucking what. Like if it was a subject that I didn't care about, dude, I just straight up cannot learn it. Pre any ADD medication, which I'm on. So if you're talking about chemistry or fucking bonding, whatever chemical, whatever, I got a D in high school history. It's pathetic. No idea. And I want to start panicking and crying. Now as an adult, I realize the value of school. And I'm like, oh, that's good that I did that. Thank God. But I would never have been able to do that if I was in control of my own life. I would have never been able to go to school on my own. I can't even go to the gym. even eat healthy consistently. Why would I be able to commit to going to school every single day? You know what I mean? Someone's paying for me, but they control my finances. I have to ask them if I want to buy a DVD. I have to ask them for $20 to go do something. And they say no. And then I have to show up and hope that somebody else passes me the weed. And then they say, you never buy your own weed. And I say, I just don't smoke that much, but my parents wouldn't give me $20. I don't want it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be in that situation. So anyway, I would never be able to commit to school, period. And I think about that regularly. And I know that it's a privilege. What a luxury to be able to go to school. But if I didn't have that structure in place, I never would have gone. And I wouldn't be able to read or talk. And I'd be walking around going, you know what I mean? I'd be like one of those people who was raised in a basement because they were being held captive and they don't speak a language or whatever. That's fucked up.
Not a good life.
So me and Mr. Pilato, this is interesting. We had an interesting dynamic because at first we had a great relationship out of the gate. Great relationship. I think he thought that I was this charismatic guy maybe. And I wasn't the coolest guy in school. I wasn't getting all the chicks, but I was cool. You know what I mean? People liked me. I had a lot of friends, whatever. And I think he knew that if he had a good alliance with me, he'd be able to control the class and control everything, right? Very quickly, it became clear that I was unable to control. I was a bad boy, being bad. And we started to bump heads and we started to not get along so well. And at one point I wrote, we had to do a social experiment. And what I did, which I'm not proud of, I was in high school, I did this. I said that my social experiment was that I went to a grocery store and I pretended to be disabled. And my cousin put me on a leash and I caused a bunch of problems in the store. And that was my social experiment. By the way, I never actually did that. I just lied and wrote the paper, which is fucked up, obviously. But I figured I would knew what to do. So I said that I was causing a problem. I was knocking things off the shelves. I assaulted my cousin and it got off the leash and ran away. And he yelled out, "Stop him!" So I wrote out all these things that I had done, and I failed the assignment. I got a 0, and was told that I needed to talk after class. At the time, I felt it was unfair because I adhered to the guidelines of the assignment. I went in public and I did something unusual to challenge societal norms. That was the assignment. That was the assignment, dude.
What grade were you in?
I think I was in 10th grade or something. I was older. And I think we recovered from that. And I hope he hears this. I always thought he was a good guy. It must be a nightmare having to teach kids who just straight up don't listen. The amount of times I made teachers snap is actually crazy. It's crazy that I was able to push them to that point where they went through that. I remember a couple teachers being really pissed at me about shit who were the nicest guys, nicest women. And it scarred me. I was fucking scarred from it, but it was my fault. I brought it onto myself. You know what I mean? Hillary always says that she thinks that I was bad in school. I wasn't bad. I just talked too much. I couldn't stop talking. Mm-hmm. I was really distracted. Ugh. And I wasn't a good student. I was an okay student. I got by. I got good enough grades to survive. So anyway, I feel for all the teachers out there. It's definitely an underappreciated job. I'm sorry to all the teachers whose lives I made difficult, and to all the teachers that I really clicked with and bonded with. That was a pleasure as well. You know who you are probably, or you're dead, or you will never listen to this or hear about it. But there's a couple of teachers that really stood out as people who I really connected with. Mr. Pilato, we'll give him that for now, even though we didn't really click. I'm sure he's a great teacher and is still out there crushing it. Mr. Cook, that was a great teacher. I'll never forget Mr. Capetta. Mrs. God, that's crazy when you can't even. Mrs. McCormick, and any others that I forgot. I'm sorry, and I'm thinking of you too. Which is funny too, bro. I think about this. People are giving their Oscar speech, and there's the guy who gets up there and just thanks every single person who's ever worked with them. And I get that. You want to make sure these people keep working for you. You don't want them to make them feel bad. But I've always respected the guy who just gets up there and never thanks anyone and just is hilarious and memorable. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that would be me. I think I would just go up there and thank everybody the whole time. Yeah. I suspect you would do the same.
I would. We had a teacher, I have to add, we had a teacher named Miss Scherzer. She taught pre-calc and everyone just beat her up. Everyone was very disrespectful. And it was the type of situation where she would ask for participation and no one would raise their hand. And she'd say, "Come on, anyone?" And before she has to start calling on people. And there was this day where we were going over some complicated subject And she asked once, no responses. She asked twice, no responses. Then a guy named Kevin raised his hand, and I could see the joy in her eyes of just the fact that a student wants to answer a question that she asked. And he raises his hand, and she says, Kevin. And then he says, completely off topic, he says, is it true that you got open heart surgery by a robot? We were all just flabbergasted by that. And she said yes. And she was one of the first people to have open heart surgery done by a robot.
What?
And
Mrs. Scherzer?
Yeah, Miss Scherzer.
Shout out to Miss Scherzer.
And she was rattled for the rest of the day.
Is she still alive?
I don't know.
Miss Scherzer, maybe, dude, hopefully she's still cooking with that robot surgery.
I hope so.
You know, who knows? Good stuff. Guys, thank you for listening to Oops, the podcast. Shout out to our boy Francis and Chris. We know they're on to bigger and better things, crushing it. But Ryan and I are here holding it down. Like I said, I'm going to be in Austin, Texas, Vulcan Gas Company, July 14th, 2 shows. I have a show in New York City at the Stand. I forget the specific date, but it's in August. That may be sold out by now, but I would say check. There might be a couple of tickets left for that. I haven't promoted it a ton yet. I'm going to be adding a bunch more stuff. I really want to get Toronto on my schedule. And anywhere else you guys want to see me, let me know, because it helps when I get a bunch of messages from the same place saying, come here. I know I'm going to sell tickets, and I go. I also have Detroit coming up. I have Jacksonville coming up. I have Seattle coming up, St. Pete, Florida, and a bunch of other places. NotJulio.com for tickets. We love you guys. And please, guys, rate, subscribe, watch the YouTube, listen in the podcast app. These first few weeks out of the gate are going to be really important for us. We really appreciate all you guys and your dedication and your commitment to us. It has meant so much during this time. I will never forget it. I look at all of you guys like members of my fucking family. I'm not even joking. I'm not just saying that. And I know you feel it for me. Anybody who messages me, you know I hit you back. Like, this is a big community. We're a bunch of friends. That's how I see it. I know it's a slightly odd relationship because, you know, you'll see me in person at my shows and I talk at you, but I hope you know that I really mean that. And I see all you guys as my friends. So anyway, whatever. That's enough of my sappy spiel for now. Ryan, anything to add that I forgot?
No, check out the YouTube though. We have a whole new setup.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
It's cool. And we're working out all the kinks to bring you guys the best product possible. Looking forward to Hill Dog in the next episode. Love you all. Goodbye.